you know, these streams of people that are almost like sleepwalkers, people without a destination in a way, and putting these, I think of these as rocks. They are rocks in the stream of people that are really strangers. They are strange objects. They don't belong here. But in some way that they ask you, you ask that question, what the hell is this object? Maybe maybe you bump into it, and the piece asks you the same question. What are you doing here? Where are you going? And it's a kind of dumb question.
Siamo a Poggibonsi e dietro di me c'è il castello della fortezza della città, che fu generato da un'idea di Giuliano da San Gallo, che aveva immaginato questa come la testa di un grande corpo umano che era la città. Quindi la città nasceva dall'architetto che pensava il corpo come qualcosa di visto dal cosmo, disteso su queste colline. Su questa testa Antony Gormley il 15 settembre del 2012 ha installato una ragazza che nel 2004 aveva accettato di partecipare a un progetto d'arte che si chiamava Arte all'Arte, sviluppato dall'associazione Arte Continua di San Gimignano insieme al comune di Poggibonsi. Antony voleva realizzare una mappa psicoaffettiva della città e con Maurizio Rigillo e Lorenzo Fiaschi noi ci eravamo adoperati a fare in modo che questo avesse una possibilità, una realtà, ed Antony aveva deciso poi di donare queste opere al comune e far sì che queste figure, che erano dei cittadini di Poggibonsi, poi rimanessero in dono alla città come un patrimonio del presente rispetto al passato.
The relation with the works in Poggibonsi this was the very beginning of this dialogue between, you could say, the cubes that could be related to architecture or related to the cells of architecture. When you look at the work at 5 Spazio Prendeposto, you see a very tentative beginning, and that was the first time we realized that it was possible to bury polystyrene in sand and pour in molten iron and make a positive. So there is a real connection. I mean, I think that in the intervening 8 years, a lot has happened in the development of the language that started with the Poggibonsi works, of making, very uncompromising cubic kind of game out of the body.
Quest'anno alla Galleria Continua con Antony abbiamo fatto una mostra bellissima nel cinema di San Gimignano e abbiamo installato lì nella città 6 figure organiche, rappresentanti più il corpo dell'artista, più l'artista come corpo.
If this originally is a space of spectacle, a kind of Odeon cinema from the 30s, inserted into a 14th century context, in which the idea of spectacle was always dumb people sitting motionless, looking at a dream world, I wanted to turn this completely around and turn this into an anatomy theatre. This is the Padua Anatomy Theatre, and we have to move around the space in order to understand the body in question. And the body in question is a body that is, in a way, determined by the language of architecture, and the language really of high modernism, of a kind of Euclidean cubic geometry applied to the body. But this is, in a way, a suggestion about a collective body, about, you could say, a city made up of cells. Anyway, vessel is a body in question. Whose body? It doesn't really matter. I think the whole exhibition is an attempt to investigate the body not as a thing, not as a place of idealization, but to say, what is a human space in space? How does the human animal create a habitat different from any other habitats of any other animals of the biosphere? I want you to not be certain what is this thing, this growing energy field that has taken up temporary occupation in this 14th century vaulted ceiling white room, which seems to have a condensing core, but you can't really be sure what is this, what is it. The extraordinary things about the geometry of that first piece is that this is a universal geometry. It's a tetrahedral. Every internal nesting polyhedra has a junction of 4 elements coming together. They resolve around 120 degrees. And you can get everything from a tetrahedron to just a rhombicoidal dodecahedron, from a 4-sided polygon to a 32-sided polygon with the same geometry. If you go straight on, ducking, it's very important to me that the body of the viewer has to accommodate these interruptions of a given space. So maybe you have to duck underneath, and then the next work you see is base. Which is in a way a foundational work for all of the work, where body is replaced by space and architectural space is replaced by mass. The kind of record, the print of my body testing the edges of this compressed architectural space. If you go the other way, then you have, in a way, the same language as vessel, but in mass. So here we have, they're all around 500 kilos. Again, the body as a space in these defined architectural spaces, but given as mass. There's an attempt, I think, in that language to internalize a kind of emotional pressure. So there are some examples of pathos, some examples of frustration, some examples of different kind of pathologies, you might say. And then you're relieved into this space, and this space is in contrast to another kind of dialectic between solid polyhedra, the same basic formation of Vierwielen matrix that you saw in the first room, with sum or sum. Titles are very important. Sum obviously is I am, but it's also the addition of things. But ironically, this is about entropy. So here is a mineral landscape which has the memory of a body. We don't know whether it's being constituted or disintegrated. And then right next to it, we have the wireworks immediately below here, which are again the same basic geometry as the first room, but again, I think pushed into a kind of emotional language. Anyway, and so it goes on. We find the same language then again in the 2x2 2 with this calcium carbonate, or the formation of the crystalline structure of calcium carbonate used and applied again to the body. You could say there are two languages. One is the language of Euclidean geometry and architecture to the body. The other is the language of crystal stereometry or bubble matrices, and they're both used. This work then leads us back to outside. At the back you've got edge 2 times edge, another identical double figure that deals with, in a way, gravity and the kind of disorientation. The relationship with Sarah is not accidental. The idea of having to have a somatic bodily response to gravity, weight, and the room itself. And then project, which uses the same language as the block works in the little passages, but extends them into space. I was really pleased to be able to include Body and Soul. Body and Soul was a really, really important project from 1990. These are, in a way, just the weight of a head against a plate. I mean, basically, just prints, direct prints of my body. But then also dealing with the 5 main orifices: mouth, ears, nose, penis, anus. And the idea of looking out from the darkness of the body. This, you know, when we close our eyes, where are we? We are in a space. We are no longer orientated by the way that light falls on objects. We are in a dimensionless space which has no, as it were, measure. The bigger idea is, I suppose, how do we make a bridge between the space of imagination, the darkness of the body, and space at large? Breathing room, in a way, is kind of dream about San Gimignano, but as a 3-dimensional mandala, you know, where somehow all the weight of history has gone. The dialectic in Breathing Room is this very strong tension between, you could say, dream time, meditation, contemplation, silence, stillness, and then this, when the light comes on, it's quite shocking, because it's really going from this dream time to, or from meditation to interrogation.